Hello everyone! So just by coincidence, my next 3 commissioned pieces are going to be done in grayscale, or some people say black and white. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you guys how I make what I'm calling the perfect grayscale palette. Nothing's perfect, of course, but I'll show you what I do to help minimize the amount of blending I have to do and the amount of mixing I have to do during the process. So it just kind of speeds things along and allows for, I think, a better workflow. So I thought I'd start by showing you the tools that I'm going to be using. So to start off, I'm using palette paper. I know it's a bit wasteful, I completely hear that, but this palette will last me quite a few weeks and multiple projects, just the one sheet that I'll be using today. So while it is a bit of a throwaway, it's not as if I'm throwing away many of them. I go through them, I don't even know. I bought this package years ago and I still have many in there, so it's not as wasteful as it seems, although it is still a little wasteful, I'll admit. Alright, next up are my paints. So because it's grayscale, easy peasy, not very many colors to use. And I'm not very particular about my brands when it comes to oil paint, but here you can see I'm using Georgian and Winsor Newton brands. So titanium white. And for my black, I use Payne's Gray, so it's not quite technically a black. It's kind of a bluish black. But that's what I was taught to use. I guess it was my professor's personal preference. He never ever used black, so we were taught to use Payne's Gray, and I just never got out of that habit. It's so strange. When it comes to acrylic paint, I use all sorts of different blacks, but for oil paint, I always use Payne's Gray. And then I have 2 browns here, raw umber and burnt umber. And because this Payne's Gray is a little bit of a, actually it's quite a bit of a bluish black, I'm going to use these 2 browns here to kind of warm it up a bit and take a bit of that coldness out of it. Alright, so I'm also going to be using this palette knife. I like to use the really small headed ones for blending the colors together. I just find it does a better job of really mashing it up. The next, also sort of wasteful thing I use is Kleenex. It's just fast and easy to go from one color to the next. Yeah, I mean, you can use cloth or fabric or whatever you prefer, but I use Kleenex. It's just easy peasy. And here's my little reference. I did this piece back in 2014. It's a commissioned piece of a gorgeous little boy named Simon, and I'm going to be doing his little brother and even littler sister soon, so I just have that there to kind of gauge the shades that I might want to achieve in his brother and sister's piece. And then here are my mediums that I use for oil paint. Liquin is something I use as I paint. Some people mix it right into their colors right off the get-go, but it is a drying medium, so I wouldn't suggest that. Like I said, I try to keep my palette alive for weeks even, so I definitely wouldn't add that to my fresh palette colors. I usually put a blob on the side and I'll dip into it and kind of mix it in a little spot in front of my blob. So if it dries out, it just dries out in that little spot and doesn't actually affect my blob that I'm hoping to make last for weeks. But liquid is really important. It dries things, and for me anyways, because I am a thin painter, I paint multiple thin layers rather than 1 or 2 thick layers. So I use liquid and it pretty much dries overnight, which is amazing for oil paint. Yeah, however, if you apply paint really thick, it may take, you know, 2 or 3 days or so. But it is a quick drying agent, and it does leave like a really lovely sheen on the painting once it's dried. So I really like liquid. Liquid original though. I find the other different versions of liquid not quite the same to work with anyways. And then inside my coil jar here, I just have my mineral spirits. I use the most expensive kind because I cannot deal with the smell, and I do wear a mask when I work with this, as well as having the windows open. It's odorless, but not really, and it's still highly toxic. But I keep it in this sealed container that has a coil in it. The coil is so that you can easily brush the paint off of your paint when you're switching colors, or you just need to refresh your paintbrush. So it works really, really well, and that's what I use the mineral spirits for. I don't really use them in my painting. I refer more to my liquid when I'm using a medium during my painting process. So this is mostly for cleaning, and I can keep it going for months and months, you know, without having to clean it, because everything settles nicely to the bottom, and I don't have to give it a wash until the coils are really full. And as you can see, this one's still, it's dirty at the bottom, but it's fairly fresh in the coil, so I'll keep using this one. And that's all you need for this process. Okay, so the first color we're going to make is black color, and we're going to make lots of it because that's going to be the color that kind of feeds all of our other gradient colors. Alright, so I'm using Payne's Gray as my black. It's kind of like a extremely dark bluish gray. Don't want that in your palette. So that's a lot of paint for oil paint. Still not sure if it's quite enough, but for now I'm going to stick with that. So there's my Payne's Gray, two kind of long blobs. The burnt umber is the redder brown, so it's the one that's going to balance out that blue color the most. However, when I did Simon's back in 2014, I don't think I was using burnt umber. I'm not sure. From looking at the painting, it looks like there's a bit of warmth, but I'm not sure. So I'm not going to put too much. A little blob like that. Like a third of one of the bigger blobs. And then I'll rely a little more on raw umber, because I think that's what I was using most back in 2014. Oh gosh, if I could get this open. Oh goodness. Oh gosh. Ah, got it. Needed a sweater. Same size as one of the black blobs, maybe even slightly more. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to take the palette knife and just mash it all together as well blended as we can get it. mix it, I kind of try to fold it on top of each other and then mash it down. And when you're working with black, it's kind of hard to see the exact shade it is when it's in a blob. So when you kind of push some along on the white paper, you'll kind of get a sense of the shade. I think this one's leaning a little too brown for me in comparison to my other piece. So I'm going to add more Payne's Gray to it. Mix that all in together. Folding it on top, mashing it down. Bringing everything to the center as much as possible. So the more it spreads out, the more you're wasting paint because it's just going to dry up real fast. Spread it out. Yeah, I think that's looking a little cooler. All right, so I think we have our main color now, our black. So from there, we're going to go a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. So we'll take a blob. Quite a big blob for this one because we're not going to be going that much lighter. It's oil paint. We don't really need that much for oil paint. Okay, just like that. Make another little pile over here, except for smaller than this one. Going along the other way, we're going to be doing kind of like the lighter shade ones. So I'm going to continue this gradient trend, but going back this way now. Okay. Alright. So now we're going to take our titanium white. If I could open it. Okay. So now we're going to take titanium white. Now, white is a very powerful color, which doesn't make any sense because it's not a color at all. But white oil paint, I guess, is like very intense, very saturated. So you have to be careful when you want to maintain very dark colors and you're adding white. So I'm going to put it here for now. It's not where it's going to stay, but this is where I'm going to pull it from to create my different shades of the custom black color that we created. So I'm not going to worry about washing off my palette, I don't think, not yet. Take a little bit of white. Add it to this one here. So we want a noticeable difference from this one, but we still want it to be considered a very, very dark gray. Getting there for sure. Add a little bit more. That's pretty close to what I want, but I'm gonna go just slightly lighter. Definitely still a dark gray, but you can see the difference. So now I'm going to move on with the next one, which is going to be even lighter. So I'm going to need more white for sure. Add more white to my little spot. Looking pretty good, actually. Perfect. On to the next one. Gonna add more and more white. And there's also less and less of the black. So that's looking too close to the one beside it, so it definitely needs more white. It's looking better, but it's still not not quite like that. Good. Perfect. Need some more white. It's not a massive difference from this one, but I think I'm going to keep it like that anyways. That we're getting into the lighter colors, I'm going to take a Kleenex to wipe off my palette knife because it's still got lots of black on it and we don't want that getting smeared into our really light gray colors. Give it a little wipe. So I'm not even adding any black to this one. I went through all the ones that had black. Now I'm just using the gray that's left over on my dirty palette knife from having blended, I think just this one even. So it's a little bit too white, so I think I'm just going to steal a little bit from a previous blob and blend that in to darken it up. There's our lightest gray. Then we're gonna do like a grayish off-white. And all that's left after that is just the pure titanium white. Again, just using whatever is left on the palette knife from this blob and possibly adding in tiny touches of more gray. See by adding the titanium white how off titanium white that one is. Huh, fire alarm's going off. That's always good. Don't worry, we're not burning. I think I will add just a little touch more. There we go. The perfect gradient.